I remember my childhood while going through this example of an incident with Buddha. My parents treated me more than an emperor. I was a very strict ruler. My parents used to fulfill all my wishes. I used to give harsh punishment as well to them and my sister if they break any of my rules. Punishment involved beating the hell out of them. I was very popular in all my neighborhood for that. Many times my mom would run in the street in order to protect herself from my anger, as one day I would have definitely killed her if I would have caught her. Seriously, guys. But there was a very dramatic change as well in my life. I have broken her rib cage once. I was very cruel. No wonder my mom was also the rarest of the rare, meaning she was a very weird woman. And that's another topic to discuss, while I may discuss later on. I never used to do any work. They were all my slaves. I had many rules, and if any of them were broken, I must give them punishment. And sometimes I told them to give punishment by themselves. They should have to do it by themselves. Slap themselves and use a belt to beat themselves. My neighbors were very annoyed with me. They could hear me beating them because I become famous. Before they didn't know like what was happening, and when they knew, like they knew this guy is the one who was doing everything. I was king of the kings. No one dares to defy my orders. Anyway, it's a long and interesting story, and gradually I began to see changes in me. So the irony comes when I decide to move to a foreign country and settle there all by myself, because I was not a very rich guy, like my parents can afford that much money. From New Zealand to Australia, I finally decided to go in Canada. My neighbors were shocked to find that how can such a person go there all alone with no relatives and can do all the work all alone by himself and settle there? It's impossible. You guys all know the struggle for international students. I was gonna do all the work without getting extra money for my expenses from my parents. I have run away from Canada also initially when I landed, and that made my neighbors so much satisfied for sure. See, we knew about you, you are not capable. But I came back for the second time after 6 months. I never wanted to get married, but I ended up marrying, and that's another long and interesting story which I may discuss later on. Cutting the long story short, now I am a permanent resident in Canada. But before I got my PR, I went back to India to get married. And at that time, one of my neighbors, who was the most annoyed with me, was kind of shocked to see me well and surviving in Canada. The sarcasm here is that when I again came back to Canada after my marriage, and then there's another long and interesting story of how I got my PR. Then that I may discuss later on. So moving to the sarcasm, my neighbor died, but I too haven't gone to India after my permanent residence. So it's like the way it started. And with my marriage is like a kind of a also weird story, So it's all weird kind of things that happened to me. So let's continue with the Buddha's incident. They said that in this matter, at least Buddha was definitely going to be wrong. But no, Buddha was not wrong. From the very next day, it was observed that if the monks walked on the path, the emperor would walk below the path where there were thorns. And if the monk sat in the shade of the tree, the emperor would stand in the sun. And if the monks ate once a day, then the emperor ate once in 2 days. Within 6 months, the emperor dried up and turned black. His body was very beautiful before, but now his bones came out due to hunger. Wounds formed on his legs. Buddha asked his monks to say what they think now. You all said that this man is not trustworthy, and I told you that this man is very trustworthy. This man will do penance beyond you all. But those monks said, we are surprised how you recognized him. Buddha said, ego always chooses one extreme over another. Ego can't stop in between. He was an emperor among emperors. Now he is a monk among monks. He was the number one emperor among emperors. He had gathered all the beautiful women of the kingdom. He had kept all the diamonds and jewels on the path of his palace. Now he is not an ordinary monk among monks. He is an extraordinary monk among monks. Buddha said, "You walk on a straight path. He walks on a crooked path. You move by avoiding thorns. He moves by looking at where the thorns are. You sit in the shade. He stands in the sun. He will remain number one wherever he is. He can't stop being number one. He will defeat you. He defeated the emperor. How will he not defeat you as the beggars?" The ego chooses always the extreme. Arjuna is saying that there is no point in giving up the entire kingdom. He will beg for alms. He can ask, absolutely can ask. Ego can be satisfied there also. Ego can't stop in the middle. It can go from extreme to extreme. There is no transformation in going from extreme to extreme. Then one day, Buddha went to that emperor in the evening. Sick, terribly sick. Emperor was lying on the side of the road. Buddha told him, "I have come to ask one thing. I have heard that when you were the emperor, you were very skilled in playing the veena, like it's a kind of harp. I have come to ask you, if the strings of the veena or harp are very tight, then can the music be produced?" He said, "How will the music be born? The wires will break." And Buddha asked, "If the strings are very loose, then can the music be created?" The emperor said, "No. If the strings are too loose, then even tinkling cannot be created. How will music be created?" Buddha said, "Now I should go. Let me tell you one more thing, that the rule of veena strings is neither too loose nor too tight. That means neither tight nor loose, somewhere in between, where it can neither be said that the strings are tight nor can it be said that the strings are loose. When the strings are exactly in the middle, only then music is created. This is the rule of the harp of life also. If Arjuna tried to talk about a middle path, Krishna would say, "Go, the matter is over. There is no point." But Arjuna is not talking about the middle. He is talking from one extreme to another. At the other extreme, the ego again fills itself. Even I have also been trying always to get a balance in my life. And that's also the concept of Bhagavad-Gita. You always need a balance, where to stop and where to run. It's not like you don't have to run. You have to run, but you have to also stop. So there is a balance. But while running, you also have to make a balance in running as well. Like you don't, hurt yourself. So that's how it works. It's a very, equation of Bhagavad Gita. So there is a very important question, like even I have this in my mind. Lord, here's a question on an issue from audience. The audience asks, why before beginning a case in court, people are asked to take an oath while keeping their hands on Gita and say this, "I pledge to say the truth." Why are Ramayana or Upanishads not kept in the court? Is there faith in Gita or just a blind faith? So let's continue with the answer. It has been asked, why hands are placed on Gita while taking an oath in the court? Why can't Ramayana be used instead? Why can't Upanishads be used? So there is a big reason. I don't know if the court knows or not. Maybe they know, maybe they don't know. But the reason is there. The reason is big. Ram, no matter how great he may be, is not a complete incarnation in the minds of this country. Partial is his incarnation. No matter how wise the sages of the Upanishads may be, they are not incarnations. Krishna is the complete incarnation. If God descends completely on earth, he will be almost like Krishna. That is why Krishna has been able to touch most of the hearts of this country. For many reasons. Firstly, complete incarnation means multi-dimensional. Even I am multi-dimensional, so I know what he's talking about. Which touches the entire personality of man. Ram is one-directional. In my previous birth as Osho, I couldn't figure out who Krishna really is. Now that I know, and I have made videos regarding this earlier. In shortcut, Krishna is E.